Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching The World Report. Let's first take a look at some headlines. The LA wildfire death toll has risen to at least 10 as infernos continue to rip through the county. As many as 10,000 structures have been destroyed in the most devastating fires ever in LA. President-elect Donald Trump says that Russian leader Vladimir Putin has asked for a meeting. Trump says talks are being arranged as Putin looks to end the bloody mess of the Ukraine war. Meanwhile, the US Supreme Court has rejected a last-minute bid from Trump to call off the sentencing in his hush money case. The president-elect will be sentenced today, 10 days before his inauguration. As Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro prepares to be sworn in for a third term, opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has reportedly been detained. Aides say she was later released after leading protests against Maduro amid election fraud claims. The United States House of Representatives has passed a bill aiming at sanctioning the International Criminal Court in response to its arrest warrants against Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant. The bill, known as the Illegitimate Court Counteraction Act, was approved by a vote of 243 to 140. It proposes sanctions on any foreigners who aid the ICC's efforts to investigate or prosecute US citizens or those from allied countries, particularly those who don't recognise the court's authority. The legislation now moves to the US Senate, where Republican majority leadership is expected to push it forward. If passed, the sanctions would include freezing assets and denying visas to foreigners who support the ICC's investigations. This bill comes after ICC prosecutors issued arrest warrants for Israeli officials in connection with the ongoing conflict in Gaza, a move that has sparked outrage in Washington and among Israel's supporters. We'll go to our correspondent now, Aditya Wadwan. Aditya, this is further signalling that the US and Israel are connected and that US is going to continue in their support for Israel while the war is continuing across the Middle East. How do you think this relationship is going to evolve when we look at a new president coming in the form of Donald Trump?
Well, George, absolutely. This is since Trump has already warned that if this shows that America has been will continue to support Israel. Donald Trump recently said, that if all the Israeli hostages are not released, all hell will break loose. So this is in line with that only. Since the earlier what has happened, the International Court of Justice had also issued summons to arrest the Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu, and now United States of America, the House of Representatives has passed this bill to sanction ICC because they they have asked a desire to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. So this is in line with what is happening, and as far as Trump's swearing in is concerned, as soon as Donald Trump will swear in, this US-Israel partnership is expected to grow because, as we saw in the first term of Donald Trump, he actually supported Israel all ends. Trump was the first president, who got the deal of friendship signed between Israel and the United Arab Emirates during his first term. So this is expected to follow. Yes, John. Back to you in the studios.
We're now joined by Abraham Shalev, a lawyer and researcher at the Kohelet Policy Forum. I'd like to speak to you, Abraham, specifically on this relationship, but looking forward and looking how it may grow with that support of Donald Trump. There has, of course, over recent days been a post by Trump on Truth Social that seemed to criticise Netanyahu. So do you think this is Biden putting in a final attempt and Biden's administration to continue that relationship? And do you think there's a risk of that relationship breaking down given Trump's sort of instability when it comes to certain foreign policies?
Well, I think that the sanctions bill, right, shows the alignment of Israeli and American interests far above whoever is the president in the United States, right? The ICC is a threat to American interests and the interests of those allies. right? Here you have a runaway court, a court that's acting without any jurisdiction, that's targeting a fellow democratic country against a non-member state based on made-up crimes in a non-existent Palestinian state, right? And these have been the concerns that the United States has voiced since the very beginning, when the idea of an international criminal court was first thought up over 2 decades ago. So we see that these concerns have actually come to fruition.
Looking in terms of those crimes that you mentioned there, you referred to them as made-up crimes. Of course, the ICC has no jurisdiction in Israel or in the United States, but there are several organisations that have spoken about these crimes at length. So where does the line be drawn? Where is the line drawn? And how can organisations be saying something so different along with the ICC compared to what Israel is saying and their allies?
Well, first, again, the very basis of any criminal investigation or of any charges is the matter of jurisdiction, right? The ICC has absolutely no jurisdiction over Israel, which is a non-member state, right? The ICC's bad faith is underscored by the fact that in order to go after Israel, they had to recognize a non-existent, right, Palestinian state, right? According to international law, statehood, the existence of a state is a factual question, right? That there are factual criteria that a state needs to fulfill in order to exist, and a Palestinian state doesn't meet those criteria. And even if it did, right, according to the binding Oslo agreements, the Palestinian entity has no criminal jurisdiction over Israeli citizens. So certainly, the Palestinian Authority, which doesn't have jurisdiction, couldn't give this jurisdiction that it doesn't have to the ICC. So the fact that the very basis of the investigation is so shoddy underscores the fundamental bad faith that animates these charges in this investigation.
Abraham, just one quick one. There are other Western nations that have said that they may stand with the ICC in terms of these arrest warrants. In terms of the United States and the fact that the ICC aren't recognised and is not part of US jurisdiction, do you think this bill has any validity, or is it potentially pointless considering both organisations aren't part of the ICC and the ICC jurisdiction doesn't matter? Do you think it's more of maybe a PR move to counter moves from other Western nations? And if so, why?
Under the first Trump administration, Trump imposed executive sanctions against the prosecutor and another chief official in the ICC. Also over investigations against Israel, investigations also into American conduct in Afghanistan. And lo and behold, when this new prosecutor Karim Khan came along, he decided that going ahead with investigation into American conduct wasn't in the interest of justice. Those sanctions were much weaker than what was being decided now. These sanctions have the power to cripple the ICC, and that is fundamentally what all democratic nations need to support. Right now, the charges against Israel against Israeli officials set a precedent that will make it much more difficult for democratic states to fight against terrorist organizations. And democratic states need to stand up and need to end the illegitimate ICC.
Thank you. We're now joined by Professor A.K. Pasha, an international affairs expert. Professor Pasha, looking at the potential sanctions that the US are threatening to place on people who will help and be part of an ICC investigation, what do you think that could do for people who are involved, and what do you think those sanctions could see happen?
This development is extremely significant. Although it is the House of Representatives which has passed the bill, and nearly 145 members opposed it, but the Republicans had tried this at least 2 times. And since now the Republicans control both the House and the Senate, it is most likely that once Trump becomes president, this is likely to be this will become a bill and could be implemented. But what is significant to recall here is the previous speaker, tried to underestimate this. But the International Criminal Court, which was established in 1998, the United States and Israel were only 7 countries, along with that, who voted against the bill, criminal code. And both the United States and Israel, they signed the founding document, that is the Rome Statute, but neither of them have ratified this Rome Statute. But the International Criminal Court claims jurisdiction over alleged war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide which is happening in Gaza, that are committed by citizens of states that have recognized the court or occur in countries that have recognized the court. You may recall that the Palestinian territories did so in 2015, a few years after the UN admitted Palestine as an observer state. And the PA also has accepted the jurisdiction of the ICC. So what in effect now will happen is Netanyahu or any other leader accused by the ICC may not be arrested in the United States, but over 186 countries who are members of the United Nations, wherever the Israeli Prime Minister or anyone accused will have to be arrested and handed over to the ICC. Although the latest to withdraw is France under Macron. But these are dynamic developments which can change depending upon the situation and the severity of the violation. And this genocide case is also before the International Court of Justice.
Thank you, Professor A.K. Pasha. We now move on to a controversial move by Elon Musk, where he's urged Germans to support the far-right Alternative for Germany party ahead of the country's February 23rd election. During a broadcast on his platform X, Musk and AfD leader Alice Weidel criticised Germany's energy policy, bureaucracy and immigration. Musk called Weidel a reasonable person, but her party has been labelled right-wing extremists by German authorities. Musk's endorsement of AfD has drawn sharp criticism from European leaders. Spanish PM Pedro Sanchez and French officials have accused him of undermining democracy. The world's richest man also repeated his opposition to Germany's decision to shut down nuclear plants, describing it as a crazy move. We'll head back to Aditya Wadwan. Aditya, this is further interference in European politics from Elon Musk. Why is he continuing in this path, and why do you think it's important for him to be involved in these issues, again ahead of an inauguration in the US, which he's a vital part of, in just 10 days?
Well, Josh, let us just put this into perspective. As you know, it is known that Republicans are right-leaning, and as we also know that Elon Musk will be playing a major role in this Trump 2.0 administration. So this can be thought as a rise of rightist governments across America and Europe. Because he is endorsing for this AfD leader, because he also happens to be a rightist leader. So this can be thought as a wave of rightist movement that is being spread, that we can see across Europe and America. What has happened also, the Italian PM Giorgia Meloni has also defended Elon Musk's support to AfD leaders, because she is also known to be a rightist leader. Elon Musk had gone on to say that, if AfD leader is not elected as a German chancellor in the next month of German elections, then what might happen Germany? It is the only way to save the Germany. So this is a particularly an ideological perspective of the rightist leaders, because they often relate the selection of a political leader of any country with the safety and security of the country. So this is what we have been seeing. This is the same pattern that many right-leaning governments and leaders have been following in the past too. Yes, George, back to you in the studio.
We'll head to Surinder Lally, an international affairs expert. Surinder, Elon Musk speaking with the AfD leader there. Of course, it was a long conversation, many things were said, but part of this sort of mission of Trump's is to push right-leaning parties. He said that the AfD are the best for Germany, but we know that they're currently polling at around 19%, and all other parties have said that they won't work with the AfD. So is this conversation, is this broadcast on X going to make any difference at all?
Thank you, Joshua. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be here. Let me take this from the top. Sometimes I believe that in the American elections, the entire world should be able to vote because it can influence entire events, the chain of events in the world. So, Elon Musk is no small fry. I mean, please understand that gentleman has 619 million active users and 162 million followers. I mean, the population of Germany is 84.7 million. So that ought to give you an idea of the kind of power that gentleman wields. And in this case, I mean, he's definitely a pretty smart man to have made a lot more money than I can ever make. But what right does any individual have, purely on the basis of the power of the money, to influence in the internal dynamics of any country? I mean, isn't that what democracy is all about? Let's leave it to the wisdom of the citizens of that country. I mean, the way he's been, Donald Trump has been ridiculing Canada. I mean, lack of a better word, not undermining, but ridiculing and belittling every Canadian individual. I mean, the United Kingdom, Germany, Denmark, and Greenland, and not to mention, I mean, Elon Musk paid $250 million to Donald Trump to get his ear. So obviously, he's going to further his agenda of far right and anti-establishment. And the power they have from X in terms of algorithms, rankings, and curation of content. So I don't think this one interview, which to me was a bit too casual, and it was all over the place, right from Hitler to the industrial policy of Germany. But having said that, it is subsequent to what kind of content it creates and the algorithms and the funding. And one more point is that in every democratic country, there is election funding, and obviously the parties get their campaign funding, which is approved by the very rules of the land. But in this case, how does that happen? Because Elon Musk support to the AFD, the kind of narrative he can spin might not be coming out of the budget of that AFD might have. So he could be further interfering, which I believe a lot of people from the power, the officers and leaders of European Union were looking, that this could also be a violation of the campaign funding, because this is an agenda or a narrative being created outside the, the four walls or the boundaries of Germany, which can further influence people. I mean, look at the power of the mobile phone. It can virtually, create, genocides, and not if regime changes. So I think the best is yet to come. And what I find ironical is that Donald Trump hasn't even become the president yet, and he's kind of stirring the hornet's nest all across the world. So my only fear would be that I hope India doesn't come on his map, because they are going all over the place, and Donald Trump is known for his mercurial being and nature. So we don't know. The entire world is is sitting on the edge, not knowing what could happen next, and then we might have to fly down to Mar-a-Lago to play golf or to have a dinner with him, to keep him in good mood and high spirits. Joshua.
Yes, thank you, Surinder Lally. I want to bring it back into the European leaders, which you mentioned there. Relationships between European allies and the US have been strong. Coming back to you, Professor A.K. Pasha, we're looking at a situation where there is a key ally of the incoming president who is causing friction with many European leaders. Do you think that friction that Musk may be causing with his words and his actions, do you think that may have an impact on European-US relations moving forward? And how could that impact Trump's presidency?
My own view is Elon Musk is virtually a de facto number one leader. Through his X, he is trying to not only influence the internal situation in America, but also broadly its foreign policy. He has made very sweeping remarks on Ukraine, now on Germany and India and many other issues. Since he reads Trump's mind very closely, and both of them align with each other's views, Trump in a way is using Elon Musk to articulate what he thinks his administration would pursue, whether it is Canada or Panama Canal or Mexico or now Germany. You see, the root cause of this emergence of this right-wing party in Germany This has been mostly in the former East German territory, which merged after the end of the Cold War. And the unequal development between the western part and eastern part of the Germany has triggered this rise of this right-wing party. Number two is the Angela Merkel's immigration policy, which allowed hundreds and thousands of refugees, especially from Syria, and earlier the Kurdish refugees. Some refugees have caused violence, and this has gone very badly among the German public. Third, and most important, Germany, by aligning with the United States and NATO on the Ukraine conflict, had to forego the Russian gas and oil, which it was getting for its economy. And also now increasingly the trade with China is a question mark. And also the German economy is not doing well, although it is by other European standards it is growing, but not sufficient to sustain its #1 position as the engine of the European continent. So all of these economic problems, geopolitical problems, and the global view of the emerging Trump administration are likely to impact. And even if all the parties in Germany...
Professor A.K. Pasha there, thank you for joining us. From American politics, we move to the devastating wildfires in Los Angeles that have left a trail of destruction, claiming lives and reducing celebrity mansions to rubble. As the death toll rises and iconic landmarks vanish, here's how the city is coping with its worst blaze in history.
Wildfires in Los Angeles have killed at least 10 people and destroyed over 5,300 structures in Pacific Palisades, home to Hollywood elites. Among the ruins lies the historic ranch of silent film star Will Rogers, an icon of early Hollywood. The Pacific Palisades property, preserved for decades and featured in modern films, is now a charred memory of its former grandeur.
This looks like the apocalypse, to be honest with you. It just doesn't feel like the normal things that happen in your life. This is something very unusual about what's going on, in my humble opinion, right now.
Celebrity homes, including those of Billy Crystal, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Paris Hilton, have been completely destroyed.
I think it's something that happens often, so I think we're kind of used to it, but, it is a tourist area, so that's sad.
In addition to the heartbreak, police have arrested 20 people for looting abandoned homes, prompting curfews in affected areas. Meanwhile, arson investigations are underway for multiple blazes, adding a sinister dimension to the catastrophe. As firefighters battle the flames, survivors vow to rebuild, showing resilience in the face of destruction. A city burns, landmarks vanish, and lives are lost. Los Angeles faces a long road to recovery from its deadliest wildfires yet. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's head to the Indo-Pacific for more news updates from that region. Impeached Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's security chief, Park Chung-jun, has spoken out against what he calls unfair treatment of the impeached leader. Park, himself under investigation for obstructing duty in a recent standoff, argued that the effort to arrest the sitting president is unjust. He further warned that the bloodshed must be avoided. Japan has approved new sanctions against Russia targeting individuals, groups and organisations aiding Russia's efforts to evade sanctions. The measures include freezing assets and banning exports. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa emphasised that the sanctions reinforce Japan's commitment to the G7's push to hold Russia accountable for the war. The Commission of Air Quality Management has implemented Stage 3 restrictions under the Graded Response Action Plan in India's capital Delhi due to rising air pollution and deteriorating air quality. The AQI reached 357 on January the 9th, following a sharp increase since January the 8th. CAQM has urged citizens to follow GRAP 3 restrictions and emphasised that Stage 1 and 2 measures remain in effect. Nobel Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai will attend a girls' education summit in Pakistan, her home country, where she was shot by the Taliban in 2012. Yousafzai, who was targeted for her activism, has returned to Pakistan only a few times since. She expressed excitement about joining Muslim leaders for the important conference on girls' education in a post on X. Japanese Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya will visit the Philippines on Tuesday and Wednesday. This trip is being undertaken to enhance Japan's strategic partnership with the country amid growing security challenges. Both countries are strong US allies focused on countering China's expanding influence in the region. Chunghwa Telecom, Taiwan's major telecom provider, reported damaged international undersea cable earlier this month. The company also alerted Taiwan's Coast Guard about a suspicious vessel in the area, which officials suspect may have been involved in cutting the cable. The vessel is linked to China, while no direct evidence has been found. Taiwan's authorities are concerned about operations that could disrupt the island's communications and security. That is all we have time for. We'll be back with more of your latest international news updates shortly.